Hello, Kate. How you doing? Thank you for
Um,
joining me.
I tried too fast off the gun there, but
It's
lovely
all
to
right.
see
I'm just happy that you're enthusiastic and you're ready to rock and roll. So that's amazing. I love that. So thank you for coming to Soul Purpose Leaders. This aim for these interviews is actually to bring together all the coaches, all the speakers, anyone who's mentoring, anyone who sees themselves as leaders in this world, to bring them all as one and to share their what is their uniqueness. And also at the end of this interview, I do ask my
I'm sorry, sweetie. I'm missing it about every. I hear the odd word and then it goes a bit weirdly wangly. So I don't know if it'll be the same for your listeners because I can't hear every word. So you said
okay.
the sole purpose of these meetings is to bring together, and then I lost a bit. Sorry,
Okay,
sweetheart.
that's fine. So the soul purpose leaders are the people who either are coaches, speakers, mentors, or authors. So people who actually help themselves and now they're helping others. And this is a time
Perfect.
that every leader who's here to actually shine the light to them.
Yeah.
And this is the point that we all come together and we share what we are actually good at and what we actually learn from our lives and give back to the people. I hope you can hear me, Kate.
Yep.
And so today we've got a beautiful Kate Griffith. She is an amazing author, but also a coach. And some would call her the coaches of coach. And she works with visionary leaders and coaches who love what they do, but so busy that they haven't found their sweet spot yet. Her clients create more meaning by unlocking their whole selves, which is the key to having more impact. Since 2008, she has pioneered an approach that integrates spirituality and business using colors. She has found that it can transform every aspect of people's lives and give the tool to bounce back from any adversity. If you want to understand how colors can help, then she encourages you to read her book, Colorful Boardrooms. For the last 2 years, she has also run Colorful Classrooms, a social enterprise, and have gone into schools with programs to support teachers and students to have better emotional health and well-being by building their resilience. If you go to, and this one I will add up, there is a website that I will put on the link below after this video, and that is you can actually get a free color quiz and find out which primary color for yourself, you, and what that means for you. If you also sign up to her newsletter, you will receive some nuggets from the book, and also she co-authored the book. She tends to hang out on LinkedIn, and I'll leave the link in the link to get hold of her at the end as well. So do connect with her and want to discuss conversation, and that will take you further than that for where and what she can do for you. And Kate, thank you so much for joining me. And I'm so impressed with the colors, and I was just like, oh my God, I've never had anyone talk about colors so passionately like you do. And so please tell us, how exactly did you come across about colors in your life?
Okay, so I've always loved colour, Burkett. So my background is as a consultant. I worked for PricewaterhouseCoopers many years ago, so very corporate, very left-brained, very much if you can't measure it, it doesn't exist. But even then, I loved colour. So if you can imagine being in an organisation, where people wear suits, and I had like a black suit and a chocolate brown suit because brown was really in then, navy, grey. I had virtually every sort of dull colour. But the way I differentiated myself is I always had a colourful shirt on underneath my suits, because it's like, you've got to have colour. And that was before I understood the power of colour. Because if you like, colour is like a form of energy, right? And we are. So I can't see auras, but you know, you've probably met people who can see people's auras. And, oh, you've got this colour or that colour in your aura. But you know, and I know, when we meet some people, there's an instant click where you think, yeah, I really like that person. I feel really connected with them. And there's other people you meet and think, oh, that's hard work. Perhaps I won't be rushing back there anytime soon. And we don't say anything, but we feel it really, really strongly about those people and whether we want them in our space and so on. And it's like, if somebody's, I mean, it doesn't happen these days at the moment that often, but if someone stands too close to you, and it's like all of their energy is in your space, and so it's not just an invasion of space, but there's something more than that. And I think what's been really interesting, actually, talking to a lot of people during lockdown, obviously we've all had to rely on Zoom and other online communication tools. And initially there was like, oh, how does this work? How do I get that? And all of this, and the uncomfortability of it. I know that's not really a word. But what I and others feel is that there is a greater sense of intimacy in a funny kind of way from being online. And for me, at least, with two teenage daughters, it's really given me a sense of understanding of their world and why they might choose that. Because in a funny kind of way, there's a sort of a greater sense of safety, because you know what you're signing up for. And then if there's 100 people on a call, there will hopefully be breakout rooms where you can connect to people and still have that deeper connection as we do on Humans First. So I found that all really fascinating. But for me, that's where colour started, to go back to your point. And what was really funny, because everything happens at the right time, as you know. So when I first got introduced, I heard about a system called Aurosoma, which has been around for probably 30, 40, really interesting. And I loved it. And I was like, these people are a bit wacky and weird, for me. Because I still wasn't really in that space. I was still in what I would call a very left brain space, where it was thinking with my logical mind and my head and all of those things. And so this kind of working with colour seemed completely bizarre and weird. And it probably took another 5 years, and it was really by accident. I used to have a corporate business, which I ran with somebody else, Kath Roberts, the person I wrote my book with. And we knew, well, now we've probably known each other about 11 years. And we worked together in a very concentrated way for 5 or 6 years. And I remember she got into colour before I did. And so I was doing my Reiki Masters, and Reiki is a form of energy. And I was when I first saw colour. But it was only when, ironically, we were running a leadership development programme together. And it was up here in Hertfordshire. And we realised we hadn't got enough people for it to be a viable programme. But I was very keen that we ran something, because my friend at the time, Anna, needed the rental income, and I didn't want to let her down. So what Kath and I agreed was we would both do a one-day programme. So we'd each run something, we'd each go to each other's events, and we'd bring people along, and that would be fine. So I did quite a bit of the marketing, because it was up here, so obviously I knew more of the people in this area and so on. I did a soul retreat, which was really around mindfulness and circle work, because I do, quite like you, quite a lot of work with women. And then the second day, Kath did a colour workshop. And at that point, I'd had a few experiences, but I didn't know a lot about it. And it was so amazing. It was probably a bit like your experience with me, but I went in, as we all do, with a number of issues, not expecting a great deal, just really there in support of my colleague. And I came out at the end of the day absolutely wowed by the experience, thinking it was amazing. I still had all the same problems that I had at the beginning of the day, but I felt lighter. if you like, more resourced and therefore more able to deal with the issues that I faced. And I thought, gosh, this is incredible. I don't understand it, but I really want to know more. And what you possibly don't know about me is I have done many, many courses over the years. So I'm an NLP practitioner. I've done appreciative inquiry. I've got 2 different coaching qualifications, you know, all these different things. And I'm a Reiki master, and I'm like, I don't need any more qualifications. But it wasn't about the qualification. It was just, I am so fascinated about colour. I need to learn more. And that was the start of my journey.
Amazing. Wow. That's a beautiful and very strong in a way of, you know, getting into a place that sometimes at the beginning you're like, it wasn't like, realistically at the beginning when you were thinking about it, but then you actually fell in love with it. And that's the most beautiful thing. And I can resonate with that myself. And that is so true for self-development. I was the same. I was like, what's wrong with these people? But then now I'm the one who's talking. So I know how it feels.
I love that. What's wrong with those people?
Exactly. They're like, why they're too happy? I've never seen anyone happy like that. Is they taking drugs or something? So I didn't know, until I was like, oh, so you choose to make yourself happy. You actually want to do this. So I was impressed after I started doing the work and seeing how it feels and everything. So the next question I would ask you is that did Kathy, isn't it? Your partner. Kat.
She was my business partner. We're no longer working together, not because we fell out, but due to personal circumstances. So when people ask you about COVID, you probably had, how have you been with lockdown and da da da. And for me personally, I like my own company, so that's not an issue. And yes, I had to pivot. I mean, I lost, and at the end of March, I had my best month in March ever, and then I lost 8 clients. So it was a bit like, oh, what's happening? But relatively, it was pretty straightforward, and I enjoyed it because I quite liked the time and creating new things and so on like that. But I think also because last year was such a challenging year for me, I dissolved the business that I had with Kath. It was a mutual decision because of these other things in our lives. But I lost my best friend, and I lost my income. So I went through a period of deep grief, actually, and just had to, you just go through it. You have to be with that process. And it took me a while. And it was weird because at the same time, it was a year I had a massive birthday. And I was like, I am not just having a party. I didn't have a party, but I did loads of different things. So I did something each month of the year virtually to celebrate, because I was like, well, it only comes around once, so I had lots and lots of fun and lots of pain at the same time. So this year has been a walk in the park by comparison.
Amazing. Wow. And that's what I wanted to ask that,
I didn't hear any of them.
So what I wanted to ask was that did Kath did a session with you at the beginning, or you just went to the course?
No, she didn't do a specific session. I was as I say, I attended the workshop that she was running, and then she asked me, do you want to train to become a colour practitioner? And initially I thought no, because I was like, I've got all these other qualifications. Why would I want another qualification? But it wasn't really about the qualification, as I sort of mentioned previously. It was about the love of colour and wanting to really immerse myself in it. And what's really funny is when people train, because it's quite an investment to get a set of bottles, because there's 87 bottles in the system, 45 spritzers, there's a lot. Often people might get, just the chakra bottles, or 1 to 36 or whatever. And I was doing it over 4 months. And in month 2, I'm sitting there looking on the website, trying to work out, I thought, oh, this is ridiculous. And I just rang her up. I said, look, I'm just ordering a set. Just get me a set, because I want to work with these bottles. I want them here so I can see them and I can play with them. And it's just much more real. and this was having started the program, knowing I wanted to do the work, but I saw it initially when I started as part of my self-development, because I've always had this rule that I put aside when I get paid. You know, if anyone pays me, whether it's 30 quid, 300 quid, whatever, I take a percentage of that as soon as I get it and I put it into a different account, and that's my money for my development, because I feel like, because of the work that we do with, you know, people, that we owe it to them, to our clients, to keep on developing and expanding what we can hold for us, you know, in our own sort of bandwidth, so that we can be of greater service to them. So to me it was initially just a tool, and I thought, oh great, you know. And then as I got into it, I just loved it even more, and I was like, I couldn't imagine a life without it. And I fundamentally believe that we all have probably been here at least once before, and possibly multiple, you know, lives. And I think at some point in the distant past, I was a colour practitioner, colour teacher, whatever, because I took to it like that. You know, I didn't have to think about it. I just loved it. And, you know, 2 years after I qualified as a colour practitioner, I went to South Africa, which is where the founder of our system, the Colour Mirror system, lives. And I trained with her to become what we call a colour teacher, which simply means that I can still, you know, work with individuals, but I can also train, you know, I train coaches and other people in colour, because to me it's like it's a great modality to blend in with whatever else that you're offering, you know, just to give you another layer, and you can kind of bring it into your work. So that's what I did. And so I haven't really looked back since I did that.
Amazing. So from that time, you're learning about colors to starting your own business with colors. When did you had the idea of publishing a book with Kath at the time?
So because we were both, so I mean, I've been a coach for 12 years. But basically, I just brought colour into my existing business, and Kath's pretty much the same. I mean, I think she'd had a business since 2009. So what's that, 11 years? So it's more or less the same. And so basically we decided about 6 years ago to set up a business together, having run that 2-day leadership program, which became 2 individual workshops, as I was saying. Well, and I think before that so we ran the business together, and we basically worked with CEOs and their top teams. So it's quite corporate. And in that we devised, because she's very creative as well, and we devised sort of ways into working with teams as to how would you bring colour in, because I wouldn't, when I worked in the same way as I would do it with an individual leader, coach, woman, you know. And so we came up with all these different tools. And so then it was like, well, actually, there's something in this way. And people who, you know, were perhaps a bit cynical because they'd had all sorts of reorganizations in their in the we're doing, and sort of asked us, well, how, you know, tell us a bit more about it. So we built very trust-based relationships with clients over, you know, a long period of time, and as that increased, the trust increased, we were more open about, well, actually, we're working with colors, we're working with energy, so with the chakras and stuff like that. So it kind of gave us that sense that a book would be really useful. So that's why we produce colourful boardrooms. So, and that's why we called it Colourful Boardrooms. I mean, actually anybody can read it. It's not about being in the boardroom, but it's written from let's give you some knowledge and understanding of where does colour sit within a range of other sort of organisational development tools that you might use, so people can understand it within their own frame of reference. And then it talks about what colour leader are you? You know, you're a yellow leader, a red leader, or what, and what does that mean? And what happens if you overplay that, and where might you go from that? And actually I mean, we published the book in 2017. We wrote it in 2015, and then it took us 15 months to edit it, because that's the key to a good book, is that it reads well and it's understandable and all the references there and so on. So that's the bit that took the time. And it's only been sort of, it took me another 3 years. And I thought, um, as a result of lockdown, I started my YouTube channel. And one of the playlists I have on my YouTube channel is around what color or what kind of leader are you, and it talks about different color leaders, so that people have got a way in to understand it, because it's a lot of material, I guess, if you're coming to color for the first time, and people, well, how do you know all of this? But I guess it's like you're immersed in it. And I think the way I would say to someone who's never worked with color is the way to think of it is it's a shortcut. It helps the client get out of their head and connect to what really matters to them in their heart or through their intuition. And it just allows that process, and also to reveal, well, what's really going on here. So there's the story that you might say, oh, I want to lose weight, or this, that, and the other. But what lies underneath that? What's stopping that? And a lot of the times it'll be things that we don't know, or they're not conscious. It's like subconscious. So you probably know this, but from the ages of sort of a babe in arms to 7, that people of that age have slower brain waves. They're called theta brain waves. So they're not very hypnotic. But what that means is that those around them, their parents and the people that are significant in their lives, will be saying things, and they take it as the truth, and it kind of is taken in deep into the cellular programming. So it's a bit like there's a book, I've forgotten who wrote it, but it's quite well known, called Rich Dad Poor Dad. And in it, one of the sort of the key tenets of the book is that, basically, if you grow up in a poor family, you're more likely to remain poor, not through any, it's not saying anything about you personally, but you probably imbibe this view that it's tough to make money, it's going to be a struggle and stuff. And so you believe that to be true. And then whatever we believe informs how we behave and how we show up in the world, and then actually ultimately the results that we get from other people. So that's why the work that you and I, however we do it, is so important, to help people to see that they are not their beliefs, and they don't have to live with that anymore. And that's why I
Exactly.
love colour, because it kind of
Yeah.
gets underneath all of that rhubarb and helps people to see what's really going on.
Exactly. And also the book what Kate was talking about, the Rich Dad Poor Dad, is the Robert Kiyosaki, and it is a well-known book, and it's really good what it says. Please, you should read it. And also, Kate, is that I would like to ask you, do you
Yeah.
have some colors? Because I want to ask is that the colors you're talking about, is it what type of colors that you actually working with? You're not talking about crayons or like
No,
colors of
no.
your clothes, is it?
No, although sometimes it was really funny, once we got asked to write an article for Psychology Today or Psychology's magazine, I can't remember, but one of those sort of quite big magazines. And they were talking about magenta, I think. Could people just wear magenta knickers and they'll still get the energy? And I'm like, well, kind of, but not exactly. So of course there is a link to the clothes that we wear. So turquoise, which is what I would call this color of my shirt, relates to creativity and flow. So if you want more creativity, maybe wear some turquoise and see what happens. But let me just show you the color that's opposite a complement. So basically Goethe, wherever he was alive, 17th, 18th century, came up with this thing called the color wheel. And he said, well, if you have this color, the opposite or complementary color is this. And so we use that in our work, and we relate it to Carl Jung, who Jung talks about the shadow. And so often we don't see the shadow because it's the bit of ourselves that we don't accept or we don't want to see. So we're always looking as color teachers and color therapists at not just at what people choose, but what sits behind what they choose, because that also will tell us something. So the opposite to turquoise is this color, coral. So when you look at this color, what comes up for you?
For me,
Yeah, what do you associate with this color, or what word comes up, or image, or
sweet. It comes out as sweet, calming, soft.
yeah.
That's what's coming to me.
And that's perfect because it's exactly all of those things. So whatever what comes to you is true for you. Do you know what I mean? So that's the first thing about color. It's not just it's this and you have to believe this, because we're all unique and we all have our own story and ways of looking at things. So absolutely. So we call this bottle, it's actually number 3, as you can see. And I believe if you think about, you were born on the 12th. So if you take 1 and 2 together, you get 3. So this bottle is in what we would call your color DNA blueprint. And I picked this partly because of that, but also actually for another reason, because a lot of the women that I work with often are lacking in self-worth and self-esteem. You know, they don't think they're good enough. They don't believe in their, you know, what they've got an idea of what they want to create in their business, but oh, no one's going to buy that from me. And so they get stuck in this sort of, because of their beliefs. And that is related to coral. Often that comes up if people have low self-esteem. And you can talk about it, as I'm sure you know you might do with your clients, and people can nod and yes and they get it, but that's all auditory, and actually it's not very effective. And why I love color is it's visual. You immediately have an experience or a view of a bottle, and this, you know, like you said, softness, and we talk about vulnerability in coral, and you and I probably both know there's strength in your vulnerability. So that all of that is a part of this. There's so many layers to it. um, and that's why so it's visual. There's the auditory piece, somebody's talking to you. It's kinesthetic, because obviously for me, I'm holding the bottle. I would give it to you if you were here, you would be holding it. And it's, as you will know because you've worked with a couple of the bottles, it's olfactory. It has a bit of a smell. And the sprays, which I use when I do meditations, have a, you know, they're more like perfume. They have quite a strong smell, and I often have associations for people. So that's why I think colour is so powerful, because it's working with 4 of the senses. So it's a much deeper read. And then it's also, you can have a coaching session, as you might do a coaching session, or anyone might do it, you know, where it's largely a conversation. And then people pick a bottle and they work with it, they look at it, they meditate with the bottle, they might massage their skin with some of it, but ultimately they pour the whole bottle in their bath and they sit in there. And if you think, and basically the good intentions of the and messages of those bottles target your cells and come in, and what's holding you back comes out. And so you not only shift energetically but also spiritually, and so then it's easier for more things to come in. And coral is the color of manifestation. So lots of people, as you know, talk about law of attraction, but we say it's coral because coral is made up of pink, which is the color we relate to love, and yellow, which is the color we relate to joy. And joy is probably the highest vibrational note, if you like, if you were doing a spiral, and it's higher than love. So you need both of those elements, joy and love, in order to manifest. And a great sense of, yes, I'm worth it, or I am enough. You know, and how many people do you meet who don't think they're enough, or they don't deserve it? So that's a great bottle to work with if that's something that's coming up for people. And it's called Jupiter because if you think about it, Jupiter is the biggest planet in our solar system. And that's all about creativity, right? And so actually often people who are drawn to that bottle are big picture thinkers. They've got loads of ideas. And so if they've got that sense of, yep, I'm okay, and I'm, you know, what I'm saying has got a place in this world, I mean, there's no stopping them. So that, there you go, that's one of the bottles I brought to show you.
That's amazing. Oh my goodness. Just from one bottle, there's so much to, it's like kind of worms. You're like, oh my God. There's so much history and so much potential and so much opportunity within one bottle. And you said that it's oil, isn't it? Is it, what type of oil does it
So
include inside?
yeah, and a good question. So it's made from avocado oil, so it's perfectly okay for anybody with a nut allergy. I've even had clients with dermatitis, which is like, very sensitive skin. It's fine for anybody, really. I've never had anyone have a allergic reaction. So half of the bottle is oil, and half is water. I mean, this is and a number of bottles are like this one are one color. The other bottle I brought to show you is two colors, because that gives us something else to think about. So yeah, so half water, half oil, and then it's natural vegetable dyes in there, and then some essential oils, and it's sort of charged up, if you like, energetically with crystals. So it's the other way to think of it, if people are scientific who are watching it and, well, how does this work, that sounds nonsense, is Dr. Bruce Lipton. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he's a scientist, a biologist. He's written loads of books, and he is sort of, in a sense, the father of epigenetics, which is basically this recognition that, we carry things in ourselves, and but we can heal ourselves, because actually we know that the cells are regenerated on a regular basis. It might be a few hours, a few days, depending on which part of the body. So, I'm not the same person today as I was, 2 weeks ago when we did that Humans First call together. And so we're always changing, but the choice is, are we moving more towards love? If you'd like to think this, I always like to think a bit like the Hopi Indians story. We've got two wolves in our body. One represents love and one represents fear. And the one that you feed the most is the one that's going to show up in your world. So, whatever choice we make with every breath, we have that choice. Do we come from love or fear? And we will choose both depending on where we are and what we think of a particular setup. But the more conscious and aware we are, because this is really, colour is a tool to help raise consciousness, to get beyond the third dimensional reality, then we're more likely to choose love, which means then collectively we're going to choose things that are better for our planet, because we have that connection with Mother Earth, Gaia, if you like, and the fact that actually we're stewards of the earth. That's what I believe, anyway.
Amazing. Wow. I cannot wait to see the second bottle. So please show us the second bottle.
Okay. So this is the second one. What do you think of this one?
Oh, wow. So the bottom bit, it's the way I see it's like love,
Yeah.
beauty,
Mhm.
sweetness, and it's like what is more sweetness in life? So that's what it brings. It's like more passion, more loving, and more, it's like want to caress you and take you within. And the top color, it's kind of like you can get lost into it. You can
Yeah.
get it's more mysterious. It's more I call it like a midnight, because that time is like people are asleep, and there's also goodness in like new birth, and it's just, yeah, it's beautiful.
Oh, that's so fabulous. I love your descriptors. You're obviously really connected to colour, because you're not phased by it at all. So that's fabulous. So this, you'll be pleased to know, is your birthday bottle, Berke.
Oh,
It's the
wow.
12 bottle. See?
Okay. Oh, beautiful.
So this is your bottle, and we'll call this Heaven on Earth,
Oh, okay,
because
that
the
sounds strong.
bluey purple, we
Yeah.
see this is violet, but it represents heaven, and red is one of the colors that represents earth. And if
Oh,
you think about it, we're spiritual beings having a human experience. So sometimes we can connect to that higher self, the expanded self, and be in that, unconditional love space. And other times we might be moaning about our neighbors, noisy neighbors, or ex-husbands, or whatever. and be much more in the third dimensional reality of life, or paying bills, cooking a dinner, washing up, all the menial crap that we all have to do, especially as women, but it's part of daily life. And I think there's a quote somewhere that says, chop wood, carry water, experienced enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. The fact is, it doesn't matter whether you've had enlightenment or not, you're still going to be doing those daily tasks.
Wow.
And the only thing that changes is our attitude to the daily task. So do we do it with love, going, yeah, okay, so this is the 10th meal I've cooked this week, but it's for my lovely children or the people I care about most, and I'm putting all of my love into it, like Chocolat, the book and film. Or do I think, oh god, I've got to cook another meal and I really hate doing this and these people are miserable, and then it'll probably taste bitter and disgusting because all of that anger sweats out of our pores into our into the food. So it's like I've forgotten his name, but Dr. Emoto, the Japanese guy who did all those he's dead now, but did all those experiments with water. And he said, if you speak words of love to the water and then you freeze it, you get these beautiful kind of crystals. But if you swear at the water and get angry and have these other less desirable emotions, then it's all like, oh, weird. And we're all of those things. I have this phrase, I think we're perfectly imperfect. And it's loving all of those parts of ourselves, even the bits that we just think, oh no, I wish I wasn't like that. That's who we are. Somebody said to me the other day, oh, you're like Marmite, people love you or hate you. That's why, I could have been offended, but I knew what they meant because I'm quite direct, and people either love that or they hate it. But, that is who I am. And I'm not going to deny it just to fit in. But quite often what we do is go, well, that, I talk about unlocking your whole self simply because people close doors on things because, their mother or their father said, oh, don't laugh loudly like that. That's just so unbearable, or, that's not how ladies behave, And so you start life in a 52-room mansion and then you end up in a 1-room hovel with not enough room to swing a cat in, feeling compressed and stuff like that. And it's like, actually, you just have to open the door to the various parts of yourself, because that way is the way to coming home, to that connection to divine love. And I think that's really what this bottle's about. And in our system, we sometimes call it the victim bottle. So, this is another thing I find often with my clients is, oh, life's been so tough on me. I've had such a difficult time. Oh, this happened. Somebody left me. I lost all my money. Da, da, da. But they love the story of it. Oh, I'm so ill. You wouldn't believe how much pain I'm in. And it's like, well, do you want to change that? But they can't, because they're attached to their identity of the story. And all it's giving them, oh, woe is me. Oh, woe is me. It's like, until you're ready to stop playing that bullshit and being in the victim, I'm not interested. You're not gonna, you're not gonna come to me, because colour's not for the faint-hearted. If you want to change, by all means, take the medicine and heal thyself. But if you don't, then bugger off, really, because it ain't gonna happen. So that's the thing is, and we're all victims at times, but it's as long as we recognize that and go, oh yeah, gosh, doing that self-indulgent thing, and I'm going to notice it, laugh at it, and move on. I'm not going to get caught in that, because that's not who I am, and that's not who anybody is.
Exactly. And that is the way it should be, in a way that if you're not ready to help yourself, nobody's there going to help you. Because, and this is what I've learned also in a coaching program and other seminars, was that when someone comes to you and they're actually mourning rather than wanting to take action and learn, it just don't listen to them, because you're giving them power when you listen. So that is so true. And I get that. And I love that, in a way that we have to actually take action. We have to actually make a fast move to say, I want to make a difference. I want to change. I'm ready to change. And that is colors. One of the way you can go is with colors that can change your life. Would you show us again those two bottles, please?
Yeah,
And
they're quite different, aren't they?
they're very different. Look at them, guys. They're beautiful. And these are just two of these bottles. She has lots, and they're so beautiful.
87.
87. And they're different types of colors. They are beautiful. You can get the book. It shows and it explains. Is it all the colors are in the book?
So in the book, so I should just explain to you, there is a book with all the colours. It's called The Wisdom of Colour Mirrors, and I do sell that. I didn't write it myself, but it's about the whole system. So if people want a book on the system, that's the book to get. This book, basically what Kath and I did was we created a set of colour bottles that were simpler. So the names were easier. They didn't have there aren't as many bottles in the system. But it was a system that we wanted to take into business and so it had business related names. So, sort of violet relates to purpose. Red is about results. And so we kind of name them in relation. So it talks about all the same colors, but it's kind of more linked to that. But, it's a great way in because because my view is we're all leaders, whether we have a position as a leader in an organization. We may be the leader in our household in terms of making decisions. It's all sorts of places where you're a leader. So it's kind of, and in that capacity, what color leader are you? So that's how it works. It doesn't mean you're, running a multi-million-dollar company. So there definitely is a lot, so we talk about red. What's a red leader like? Where does that go? What's an orange leader, a blue leader, a green? So, if you said, what color, your favorite color, then it would probably be in there. And that's the thing. So, yeah.
Amazing. Okay, that's beautiful. And also, you said that you sell the other book as well. So if people want
Yes.
more information about the colors and everything, so they will get that into your website, isn't it? Everything is there.
Yeah. And the other thing they can do, if you like, cards, you know what I mean? Like sort of, not tarot cards because it's not tarot, but they're like color cards, and they're lovely because they have like a bottle, or these are like the spritzers look like that, the one I used when we did our meditation, and you have bottles are like that. Oh, sorry, the light's bad here. Yeah. And then so it has a little message in the bottom, and there's a book in there so if people haven't done color, they can read it and go, oh, what does this mean? But it's a bit like, sort of like oracle cards. So if you're like, oh, what's going on today, you pick a card and it gives you some insight. Oh, right, I need a bit more love for myself. Okay, what can I do for myself? I might go and have a walk or have a bath, or have a bit of chocolate, or whatever like that. So it just gives you a little, it's quite nice as a way in. You don't have to have any of the bottles, but it's a way to start. So I have those as well.
Amazing. So I just want to see, okay, I've already shared this, that you are more into LinkedIn, isn't it, than any other platform, or is there any other platform that you like?
I mean, I mean, I'm on Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that. And I would say to people, if you like videos, which they probably do if they're watching this, or what have you, then check out the YouTube channel, because that's got lots of videos, and they're short. They're sort of between 3 to 5 minutes, so it's not very long, but it gives people a taste and more of an experience, and they're all themed. So that's a great way in. If they want to talk to me, come and find me on LinkedIn. This is where I tend to hang out. But I'm also trialing, because I'm very interested in making a difference, and so I'm a bit concerned about Facebook and everything they've been involved in. So being part of the boycott of not advertising on Facebook during July, and along with a lot of other people, I've been trying out another platform called MeWe, as in MEWE.com. It's much smaller, so it doesn't have the reach, say, of Facebook or even LinkedIn, but it's a bit more like Facebook in the sense it's a bit like the Village Green. People chat about different, things that are more personal. So it's a little less stiff than LinkedIn, and there is business stuff on there as well. But it's like I'm really an advocate, Berke, that if we want to change things, we have to be that change ourselves. As Gandhi said, make the change, show up somewhere else, do things differently. But then again, you can't spend all your time on social media, or you'd never do anything else, would you?
No, you wouldn't. And thank you so much, Kate. We do appreciate, and I'm so happy and I'm so grateful for you to join us today to cut short your family evening and to actually being here and share with us about colors, something that might other audience feel like, oh my God, it's something new, or it's something that they can actually work on, or maybe something that they've been looking for. So this is a way that they can actually help themselves. And to get in touch with Kate, like I said, I'm going to put it on the link, everything about on the link, so you can get hold of her. And thank you so much, Kate. Would you like to share one message to the world today, please?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for the opportunity to come. And I just love being in your company. I know lots of people say this, but I love your joy for life and your laughter. And I just, it's a real honor to be with you. So thank you. And my message is really, as you are, so you will receive. So, if you can, I don't know, I was with, how do I explain it? I was with Gary, Gary Turner recently, and Linda, who's another member of our, runs this sort of group, a community in Croydon. And it was unusual for me. Gary and I were the only white people on this call of about 20 people, which was amazing because it's good to be in different situations. But I learned so much from Gary. He was so humble and so loving towards all these people. And he only really knew, me, and Tony was on there, and Linda. He didn't really, necessarily know anyone, but he was just gave so much for himself. And I think it's that, that the more that we just show up and say, how can I be of service, and ask the universe, and it comes back to us in so many different ways, and you just keep on doing that. So I'll share a very quick, tiny short story to explain what I mean. So last week I was having a conversation with someone I've been getting to know, and we were dealing with, we're talking about why they weren't getting to where they wanted to in their business and what was holding them back. Mm-hmm. And they picked some colors and stuff like that, and we further conversations, and they were really drawn to this particular bottle as they started to reconsider their relationship with power. And I said to them, well, have a look at the essences, which are the sprays, and pick one, because it's really good to work with a spray and a bottle, because the bottle you put in your bath, but then you've got your spray to do meditations for sort of 6 months or so. So anyway, so they picked a spray and they bought it off my website, and so I got their address. So I packaged it up along with the bottle they picked and sent them a card and everything, sent it off to them, and sent them an email saying, thanks so much for your order, here it is, and now and thank you for paying for the spray, but you still owe me for the bottle.
Yeah.
And then today they said, oh, well, no, I've paid you. And I said, no, you paid for this, not for that. And they hadn't opened the package, even though they'd had it for 3 or 4 days. And then they said, oh, I only wanted to take the spray. And I said, oh, I thought we'd agreed you were going to take that. I said, don't worry. And they said, oh, I'll send it back to you. And I said to them, about an hour later, I reflected on it over dinner last night, and I wrote and I said, look, I get a really strong sense intuitively you're meant to be working with this bottle as well. And I said, I know that money's tight for you at the moment because other stuff's been going on. So please, I think you're meant to have this. That's why there's this misunderstanding's happened. So would you keep the bottle and don't worry about paying me, because I know, it's really difficult at the moment. So they wrote back, said, thank you so much. That's really kind. Da, da, da. And then later today, I discovered that somebody who'd bought something a while ago, I'm doing my accounts for last year, for the tax man. hadn't paid me. So they're going to pay, and that would be the same amount that he would have paid for that other bottle, you know. And it's just funny how it all, you know, works out, but just we get out of our own way, you know, and come from that heart giving where we see people need what we have, and then other things come in.
Exactly. Wow. That's amazing. And it's so true what you're saying, because end of the day, things does happen, and you have to understand that whatever you give, it comes back in a different ways.
Yeah.
So that's a beautiful message, Kate. And it really, thank you so much. And I would just, I don't want to keep you for your family. So thank you. Okay. And tell your family we're very happy. We're very sorry at the same time, but we do appreciate you so much. Okay.
Oh, thank you so much. I will certainly share that with them. And it's been such delight. Thank you for this opportunity, my lovely.
Thank you, Kate. Bye.
Bye, lovely. Bye.